Hello and welcome back to the TVBinges.com Pilot Roundtable, a Southgate Media Group podcast. I'm Kyle Tremblay, the editor of TVBinges.com, and I'm joined as always by a fellow TV Binges writer. She's practicing her magic while writing mystery novels. It's Olivia Richards! Hello!
At the same time.
I know, well...
Ticking. I have a minute to escape handcuffs and finish, this paragraph.
That's right. This is how we make reading exciting for the kids nowadays, is, because with video games and everything, kids can't be expected to read, so you're pioneering this new method of high-stakes reading, where the tank...
That should actually be a thing.
Yeah, if you don't read 10 pages in a minute, the water tank fills up and you have to escape. Pretty terrifying. So today, we are not talking about weird Hunger Games style child violence.
Education, future.
Yeah.
Happening.
We are actually talking about Fox's new historical drama, Houdini and Doyle. Not a joke. Olivia, what did you think?
I think you said historical with a question mark because that was essentially it. Mm-hmm. With this pilot, and I think we saw this coming, there was simultaneously no reason and every single reason for me to love it, and I kind of was on both ends at the same time.
Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, because I knew you had tipped me off that this is right in your wheelhouse.
Oh, God, yeah.
As always, I always learn these things about you, and I was like, oh, you're watching what was that CW show that you fell in love with, the musical one?
Oh, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, right. Like when I learned that you watched like those episodes like 3 times each.
And have like all the songs on my iPod,
yeah. So what I did not realize is that you are a Houdini head and a Doyle fan. The title of the show, as the uninitiated listener might have already guessed, or more likely not.
Probably not.
Refers to the famous magician Harry Houdini and the author of Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle. And the show is about them teaming up in historical Britain, I think they're in.
It was, London.
London, to solve crimes on a weekly basis. Olivia, what is your... I want to start with, okay, what I just said are ridiculous words.
Completely, yeah.
What is the historical context for this? Is this just, pure historical fan fiction, or is this based on something?
Okay, well, they took the actual idea. So basically, Houdini and Arthur Conan Doyle were actually friends in real life. It was actually after, so it did a little bit of an anachronism with this, and that it set it in 1900, when in truth, these guys actually were best friends in 1920, I think.
Okay.
But essentially, they were actually friends in real life, and the show kind of took their real dynamic in that Houdini was not into, the mystical or magical or anything, which is weird because he was a magician, and that was his entire act.
Yeah.
But then Arthur Conan Doyle was actually into, kind of the mystical, and he would stage seances and things like that. So it kind of played off of, the two of them having this really bizarre friendship dynamic that I think actually in real life kind of forced them apart after a while. But they were sort of like a real life Mulder and Scully, which I thought that, was kind of funny.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, well, that's interesting to hear that the personality traits that have been ascribed to them in this show are based on something that's real. Because Houdini on this show is played by Michael Weston, and he is played as a brash, a know-it-all, skeptical American who has apparently time-traveled from the future based on his dialogue.
Yep.
Because he speaks contemporaneously to us. There is no hint of this being the turn of the 20th century. This is just pure modern dialogue. And Stephen Mangan plays Arthur Conan Doyle as an extra on Downton Abbey. And so that dynamic And the fact that they split apart in real life, I guess, gives some context to the fact that they have literally no chemistry in this pilot, and they seem to hate each other. So I don't know. What did you think about them, their portrayals of the characters and their relationship with each other?
And that's the sad part, because that's what drew me into the show in general. Just, having, this pair who are complete opposites. And, obviously the show is actually from the creator of House. Mm-hmm. So you had that, like, House Wilson dynamic. You have, like, the Mulder Scully, like, the one that, has kind of led so many shows. But unfortunately, in this one, that chemistry and that sort of, bantering back and forth just wasn't there. And I think what you said kind of probably made it, so that it couldn't be. And that Houdini seemed like he was, like, a modern Las Vegas show runner, as, like, against Arthur Conan Doyle, who seemed, perfectly in character and perfectly belonging in the time period. And just, I wanted to see more of that kind of, like, placing wagers on the cases and, seeing the two of them being, completely, at odds with each other and their belief systems, but still being friends at the same time.
Yeah, there was a way to do this sort of odd couple mismatched pairs that would have potentially been interesting, and they did not find that way. They did not. This is not like the barbs that Houdini is throwing aren't sharp enough. It doesn't hit their relationship. Like nothing clicks about this pair. And like, okay, before I get too far away from the topic, one more question that is going to sound ridiculous as I ask it. But these two were friends in the real world. Did they actually, like, solve crimes? Like, where did the detective aspect of this come from? Because they are an author and a magician. Where did crime fighting come in?
And that's completely the show being insane, because I actually looked it up. I was like, okay, did they actually, like, help her? It was like a weird, like, castle situation where it was, like a writer helping out, the NYPD or something like that. But no, they were just, a writer and a performer who were best friends. And in this show, now they solve crimes together.
Isn't that, like, the biggest indictment of, like, network TV? That you could take what is certainly a historical friendship between two very interesting and famous people, and somehow they are fighting crime. Like, I don't like the crime fighting aspect. Neither was a police person. Like the closest either of them is to actual crime fighting is that Doyle, of course, wrote the Sherlock Holmes stories, who's, like, history's most famous detective. But it's so weird to me that the author of Sherlock Holmes is the main character in a detective story. It's like if you did a show about Quidditch and the main character's name was J.K. Rowling, or like if you did a gritty fantasy medieval drama and it starred a character named George R.R. Martin. Like, it's just a weird, like, I don't get it. Like, he's an author, he wasn't a detective, and I certainly appreciate, like, taking license with historical figures, but it's just weird. It's weird that these two are detectives, and that, like, the top of this episode, within 5 minutes, like, establishes them as such. This episode so quickly lines them up with the police department that we basically have no time to meet them. They are just detectives right off the bat. I couldn't get past how weird it was.
No, it's super, and I feel like if this was like an HBO or a Showtime drama, that they could have just taken, Houdini and Doyle as they were in, their own time and just made a show based on their kind of bizarre friendship and dynamic.
Right.
But because it's a network drama, quote unquote, crime drama, I feel like this is almost kind of a filler as we wait for, our next round of shows to roll in. Like, we have this, 10-episode show that's completely ridiculous and,
Yeah.
Well, they're like, okay, we're just going to have this on and maybe someone's going to watch it and it's going to be completely over the top and whatever.
Well, I mean, it's more filler than maybe even you're leading on, because this show has already aired in its entirety in the UK and Canada. This is a show that Fox purchased from a UK-based studio and is now just running on American Air So this is like not even an original production. This is just like a UK show that is now airing in America. So I mean, obviously Fox was just trying to fill part of the schedule. Do you have a comparison for this show? Like we've sort of marveled at the ridiculousness, but is there like a show that you can compare this to for the audience?
The closest I could say, in terms of ridiculousness, I would say Sleepy Hollow. But there's also kind of elements of Doctor Who in there. And again, if you're a fan of shows like, House and, like the X-Files, it kind of has like that character dynamic with the ridiculousness of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, I would say that you take sort of the tone, not even the tone, just the sort of, like you were saying, the ridiculousness of Sleepy Hollow. And if you put that into Castle, I would say that this is that show. This is Castle. Yeah. This is two detectives. One of them is a skeptic, like a hardcore skeptic, which is the Beckett character on Castle, and one of them is like a true believer, which is the Castle character on Castle, which is of course the X-Files formula and the formula of like every TV show. Basically, it's a play on the cop not a cop formula that Castle employs, but only just barely, because there's also a wildly anachronistic female cop on the show for some reason, who gives some really like meaty material about women's rights and stuff, and is like decades ahead of her time. Like it's like as if the show wasn't already like fudging its timeline. There is no way that in 1901 London this female cop was an actual person.
No, and it's sad because another like historical thing, but it's like the real Adelaide Stratton was actually the first female constable of Scotland Yard. So on the show, I was kind of like, asking maybe for, a lot from a Fox right. crime drama. But I mean, there were elements of her that I liked, but I kind of felt like she was just kind of tossed in there,
Yeah, and she was tossed in there because they have no other way of getting a female character into the cast. It's two male leads, so you've already sort of punted on the Castle will they or won't they dynamic, which of course is the reason Castle was the most successful of this kind of cop not a cop style. Is it wasn't the procedural elements, it was that central romance. You obviously can't have that here, and so you have to introduce this female character and try to... It's just a mess. Like, it's honestly a mess. Like, structurally, this is a mess. The acting is a mess. The writing is blah. There's just not a lot to go on here. I think audiences agreed, because this premiere did a 0.7 in the demo for a Fox Monday night premiere. Yikes! 2.62 million viewers. Oof! That is as terrible as it sounds, and about as terrible as you would expect from a show that you could genuinely call historical fan fiction. So, Olivia, do you think this one will be canceled quickly, make it through the season, or renewed for next season?
Well, given that they already, rolled out the 10 episodes, we're going to have those to work with. But yeah, there's absolutely no way it's coming back for a second season.
I mean, I assume they already paid the price tag to license those 10 episodes and air them. And it's not like Fox, all the network shows are ending here. So it's like, what are you going to replace it with? I mean, honestly, like, infomercials would probably do better numbers, but you already paid for this, and so might as well just keep them going. Maybe it'll get like bumped to Saturday. Is what I think will happen. Is that like they'll burn these off 2 at a time on Saturdays because, oh boy. So Olivia, your final verdict on Houdini and Doyle.
Oh man, there's that part of me that wants to like it, but I mean, yeah. I'm probably going to catch up on it later, but objectively speaking, I know I'm going to be that person, but objectively speaking, it has to be a thumbs down. This is my personal limit list, but I can't take pride in that fact.
Well, it's kind of like what I did with Rush Hour, where I recognized that it was bad, but I also like loved it. I still gave it a thumbs down, but like I was still into it.
My heart's in it, but
I don't think we got into enough. Like, what do you like about this show? Because to me, this was just a pile of garbage. So what did you like about this show?
Oh man, and that's the thing. Like, I love that entire character dynamic, I just wish there was actual chemistry there. But, I mean, there's that optimistic part of me that's like, okay, maybe it just wasn't in the pilot, and maybe it's going to get better. Maybe it won't, and by maybe I mean probably. But my optimism is going to stay intact, and maybe hope that, you know, the chemistry kind of finds its way into that dynamic.
Yeah, for this one, honestly, like, one of my favorite games is to, like, suggest what a show could do to improve. I've got nothing for this. This is, to me, after seeing that episode, I just think it's hopeless. So this is a thumbs down for me. So you've been listening to the Pilot Roundtable, a TVBinges.com and Southgate Media Group production. You can listen to all of our episodes on iTunes, where you can rate and review us. We would appreciate that. Or find us at SouthgateMediaGroup.com. Follow Olivia on Twitter at RichardsOlivia, and me on Twitter at KyleLovesTV. Until next time.